Good morning. You're listening to The Brief Wake Up, your mindful start to the day. I'm Handel, your daily coffee companion, helping you wake up informed, thoughtful, and maybe just a little amused before the day gets old. If you're commuting, corralling kids, or just standing in line for caffeine, you're in the right place. Let's get you caught up. Let's start where we always start, with our health. Why do we get nighttime leg cramps? As a vascular surgeon, this is one question I receive quite often. If you've ever been drifting off to sleep and suddenly your calf locks up, like someone plugged your muscle into a wall socket, you're not alone. Nighttime leg cramps hit up to 60% of adults, and for many, they come out of nowhere. But what's actually going on? The truth is, most nighttime cramps aren't about how hard you worked your legs. They're about irritability at the nerve muscle junction, and a handful of everyday things can flip that switch. Doctors point to the big 5 contributors to nighttime muscle cramps. The first is mild dehydration. Even small fluid losses make muscle cells more excitable. Second, low electrolytes, especially magnesium, potassium, or calcium. Third, long periods of sitting, keeping the calf shortened for hours. Fourth, long periods of standing, constant activation leads to fatigue. And lastly, medications like diuretics and some statins. And for a lot of us, it's simply age-related nerve changes. The wiring becomes a little less coordinated with time, making nighttime misfires more common. So, what actually helps? Hydrate during the day, not just before bed. Add foods rich in magnesium such as almonds, spinach, pumpkin seeds, or take a supplement if okay with your clinician. Stretch your calves and hamstrings for 30 seconds each night before getting into bed. And here's a simple one people overlook. Keep your feet in a neutral position while you sleep. Most night cramps are triggered by your toes pointing downward during sleep, otherwise known as plantar flexion. That position shortens the calf and precipitates the feared spasm. 2 easy fixes. Let your feet hang just slightly off the bottom edge of the mattress while you sleep. This keeps the toes floating freely and not being pushed downward by the bed or by tight blankets. Or, if you prefer, place a small pillow or rolled towel under your ankles to keep the foot off the bed and neutral. Most nighttime leg cramps are harmless. Painful, sure, but harmless. But if you're getting frequent, severe cramps, or cramping with weakness, numbness, or swelling, that's your sign to check in with a clinician. Your sleep matters, your recovery matters, and you deserve a night without the surprise lightning bolt in your legs. And for what's developing in the news cycle, CDC reverses its long-standing stance on vaccines and autism. This morning, we need to talk about a stunning shift inside one of the most important public health agencies in the world and what it means for trust in science. On Wednesday, the CDC quietly updated one of its vaccine web pages, reversing its long-standing position that vaccines do not cause autism. The page now calls that statement not evidence-based. That goes directly against decades of scientific research and blindsided the agency's own career scientists. According to multiple CDC officials, including former leaders, this change did not go through normal scientific clearance. In fact, some staff only discovered the new language Thursday morning, and several were reportedly in tears. One former CDC director said plainly, "They've weaponized the agency." This move comes under the leadership of HHS Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr., a longtime vaccine skeptic who has repeatedly pushed the debunked idea that childhood vaccines drive autism rates. Public health experts warn this latest step is designed to sow doubt and may open the door to redefining federal vaccine policy altogether. And here's the key. This is very important. The data and scientific understanding has not changed. More than 40 large studies covering 5.6 million people, have found no link between vaccines and autism. Absolutely none. The American Academy of Pediatrics responded immediately, calling the CDC's new wording misinformation that will mislead parents and make Americans sicker. Even Senator Bill Cassidy, the Republican whose vote secured Kennedy's confirmation, publicly pushed back, saying vaccines for measles, polio, and other childhood diseases are safe, effective, and do not cause autism. Critics say this is part of a broader pattern. Kennedy has already dismissed the government's long-standing vaccine advisory panel and replaced members with individuals holding anti-vaccine views. Public health leaders fear the ultimate goal may be to push autism claims into the federal vaccine injury compensation system, a move they say could bankrupt the program and drive vaccine manufacturers out of the US market entirely. For families and clinicians, the stakes are enormous. Autism advocates say this new CDC language resurrects harmful myths they've been fighting for decades and does so under the banner of what was once one of America's most trusted health agencies. For the brief wake-up, this isn't about politics, it's about evidence, public trust, and the health of every child in this country. We'll keep following it closely. Okay, big sip time. Kaizen, the power of 1% better. For today's big sip, we're talking about something subtle, ancient, and quietly powerful. Kaizen, the Japanese principle of continuous incremental improvement, not reinvention, not ripping your life apart and starting fresh, just becoming 1% better each day. Think of it like dripping water shaping stone. One drop does nothing. 100 drops do nothing. But drip after drip, day after day, the stone transforms, not because of force, but because of consistency. And in the medicine, especially surgery, you see this every day. Mastery doesn't come from the big heroic moments. It comes from the micro adjustments with each subsequent operation. The subtle angle of a wrist, the gentle rotation of a needle driver, the 1 extra second you take to check your field before you close. Tiny refinements, repeated thousands of times. That's Kaizen in the OR. But here's a metaphor for everybody. Kaizen is like brushing your teeth. 2 minutes today won't change your life. 2 minutes tomorrow won't either. But skip it for a month, you'll feel it. Stay consistent for a year, your dentist will act like you cured plaque. Small actions, big results, but only when they stack. Kaizen shifts the question from, how do I transform everything? To, what's the smallest thing I can improve today? Because 1% better everyday compounds. That's not inspiration, that's math. Kaizen turns progress into identity. It makes improvement feel lighter. It makes discipline feel doable. And without even noticing it, those tiny 1% stitches start closing the gap between who you are and who you're trying to become. And here's the punchline. You don't need a new life, just a better next step. Take enough of those, and the new life shows up on its own. That's Kaizen, and that's your big sip. What's available for today's lighter roast? We are keeping it very light with our topic. The Thermostat Wars, Love and Temperature. Today we're talking about something every couple has fought about at least once, the bedroom temperature. Because nothing exposes the truth about a relationship faster than the thermostat. Science says the ideal sleep temperature is 60 to 67 degrees. 60. 7. That's not a temperature, that's a dare. That's the weather you walk through quickly, not something you voluntarily curl up in for 8 hours. And of course, in every relationship, you've got 2 species of sleeper. First, the cold sleeper. This person goes to bed dressed like they're camping on Mount Everest. Socks, hoodie, sweatpants, blanket tucked up to the chin. They're wrapped so tight that if the CIA ever needs new interrogation techniques, they should study this cocoon. Then there's the hot sleeper, a human furnace with trust issues. This is the person who needs the AC at full blast, the fan spinning like a helicopter, the window open, and one leg hanging out of the blanket like a climate control probe. They sleep like they're auditioning to be a rotisserie chicken. Now put these two in one bed and suddenly your loving relationship becomes the thermostat Cold War. The hot sleeper wakes up at 3 a.m., drenched, kicking blankets off, like they're fighting for their life. Why is it 72 degrees in here? Who authorized this? Meanwhile, the cold sleeper is curled into a medieval ball whispering, "If you lower that thermostat one more degree, I swear you may not wake up tomorrow." And compromise? No, there is no compromise. You try setting it to 69, and both of you feel personally betrayed. So couples end up creating treaties more detailed than international peace agreements. Fan can be on but not oscillating. You can have the blanket, but drape your leg onto your own side of the border. Thermostat is frozen after 10 p.m. unless someone is actively dying. And yet, even with all the sweating, shivering, and silent 2 a.m. thermostat sabotage, we still choose to sleep next to each other. Because the real perfect sleep temperature isn't 60 degrees. It's whatever keeps both of you in the same bed and keeps the thermostat from becoming grounds for divorce. It's time to honor November 21st commemoration. There and this date carries both deep scars and small comforts. On this day in 1920, Ireland lived through what became known as Bloody Sunday. In the morning, the Irish Republican Army carried out coordinated assassinations against British intelligence operatives in Dublin. That afternoon, British forces stormed a Gaelic football match at Croke Park and opened fire on the crowd, killing players and spectators, including women and children. It was a turning point in the Irish War of Independence, and it changed how the world saw British rule in Ireland. Fast forward to today, and November 21st is also World Television Day, a United Nations observance that recognizes how powerful that glowing screen in the corner has become, shaping opinion, documenting conflict, and sometimes exposing exactly the kind of injustice that Bloody Sunday represents. And because history is heavy, this date also gives us something simple and human. In the US, it's National Gingerbread Cookie Day, a small, sweet excuse to preheat the oven, warm up the kitchen, and share something with the people you love. So, as you move through your day on this November 21st, maybe hold all of that together for a second. A tragic afternoon in Croke Park, a world where cameras and television can finally show us what once stayed hidden, and a gingerbread cookie that reminds us why any of this history matters in the first place. Because real people, real families, live on the other side of these stories. I'm Handel. Be curious, be kind, and top off that cup. Till next time.